What's up, everybody? Another beautiful morning, another exciting morning, another excellent morning. Definitely nice, nice outside. Anyways, thank you for tuning in again to this next, conversation. And again, before I continue, I would like to encourage you to make sure that you subscribe and definitely participate, right? Kind of join in the conversation. That's the whole point of this, is to make sure that we're having a conversation. I'm putting out some stuff so that we can share and talk about some of those things. And not just talk about them here in this space, but talk about them like in different places, right? In the community, in your family, in different places where you are at. And so that's a reason for that. So make sure that you're subscribing and make sure that you're staying up to date, and make sure that you're also posting a comment. Again, bringing ideas. Ideas are welcome in this space, and so that we can continue to interact that way. Anyways, so just wanted to take this beautiful morning to reflect upon some things that's been happening, not once, not twice, but several occasions, I want to say, and I've seen him enough to a place where I'm just like, what the heck is actually going? And when I say what the heck is going, I mean what the heck is going with us, parents, parenting. It's just disappointing in so many different ways, and it looks like I don't know, like somehow people have lost the art, or don't care anymore. Like I've been seeing a lot of these laissez faire, and from across the board. I mean, seriously, it's not really about. It seems worse for parents who actually have the means. And here's what I'm talking about. This somehow mindset that somehow, school and electronics and social networks and things like that somehow is supposed to be the educating place for our kids. I'll give you an example of this. So one of these parents I know, kid is 11. And having a conversation with his mom, and he just goes like, shut up. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, maybe a one-off. And then, there's no reaction from the mom. Like, there's no reaction. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. I will continue having conversation. And before you know it, there's an F-bomb that's flying. And then there's this awkward, uncomfortable moment. And I'm thinking, no. So I step in and I say, you need to shut up. I mean, I just say that, you need to shut up. And if you do that one more time, like if you talk to your mom like that one more time, you're gonna have to deal with me. But after that, after the whole thing, I'm not going to explain the whole situation. The mom comes to me and says, thank you. It's just really hard. And I'm thinking, no, it's not. No, it's not. And before you jump into like, you don't know their situation and stuff, but yes, I do know their situation. I think in the previous video, I talked about, the question of who's raising your kids, right? And the values that are being instilled in these kids. And so when I'm talking about this and sharing with you, it's because I've seen a lot of it. And somehow, in some ways, parents have stopped parenting. It's just not happening. And I'm wondering, like, what happened? Like, what really happened? Because people are paying the price of that. It is society that's paying the price of that. That we're getting to a place where there's no regard for anything, no behaving, no respect, nothing. And that is translating into everything else that you see. Lack of respect for grown-ups, for elders, for the authority, and lack of following directions, kids just saying whatever they feel like saying, and there's no accountability, none, zero at all. It's just not there. And I don't blame him and don't fault him. And when I start to having conversations about like, you need to be fully responsible. You hear all kinds of excuses, and I'm just tired of those excuses. No, you need to hold your kid accountable. You need to start parenting again. We've lost the way, and that's why, and I'm not attributing this specifically to just lack of parenting, but what you're seeing right now in society is paying for that. All the shootings, all the stabbings, all the affiliations that are just horrible, all the drug addictions and the suicidal rates going up. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but I think personally, my opinion is that's a huge contributing factor, because the kids, such an early age, somehow it's just like they have to be themselves. Yeah, they can be themselves at the same time being accountable to something, to somebody. You can just have this laissez faire or laissez faire, if you will, in French mindset, because it's your responsibility. And for those of you aspiring to be parents, I'm just going to say this outright. If you're not ready for it, just don't do it, right? And like, you see people having kids and just, I'm hoping, or like you see kids that are like, oh yeah, they're going to be okay. Hopefully society would teach them. No, society ain't teaching them nothing. You need to be able to work. You need to be able to teach. You need to be able to show them the way. You need to be able to lay a strong foundation so that when they get to be there in society, they're actually positively contributing to society, not just being destructive. And I've seen this so many times to the point where like I just want to talk about it. I'm so glad I have this platform now. We can really have these discussions. And sometimes you hear people like, well, you can't really do much because the law. No, do not, like, don't come up with this law thing. The law doesn't do anything that says you should not parent. Don't abuse your kids. Yeah, of course don't do that, because that is horrible. But you know what? And I see everybody trying to subscribe like, this, there's only one way, there's only one way to that. You could do it differently. Like when you try, when you try something different, like when you talk about like, sometimes a kid needs a little spanking, or when you talk about like, sometimes you have to be like firm. Oh no, there's some emotional damages and stuff. I'm like, we've become so soft as parents, and unfortunately that softness is actually not being helpful, and the rest of everybody else is having to pay for that. There's no one size fits all. It does not exist in that. A combination of many different things would do. Sometimes you have a conversation, you negotiate, and you interact. Sometimes there's time for spanking, and there's also a time for it's okay to be really firm, and the little yelling ain't gonna kill them. No, that's what I'm saying. It's a combination of many different things. And don't hide behind the law, and don't hide behind studies saying all of this to try to hide away from your responsibility as a parent to parent. No, don't do that. Understand that if you don't do it now, if you're not laying the foundation, because if an 11-year-old can get to that place where they're throwing out F's to their parents, right, or telling their parents shut up in public, to me it's like the foundation wasn't laid. Like, what values did you actually put forth for your kids? So, and I'm not saying, my kids are perfect, but I'm just saying my kids are well behaved, right? They are well behaved, and not because I say it. And I know many other kids who are well behaved. I'm just talking specifically to certain, situation where it just seems time and time again that, parents have just forgotten to parent. And many excuses are there. If a kid is throwing some F-bombs and you want to negotiate, like, no, that's the time to put your foot down and say, you know what? No, you're not going to do that. Hush, sit down. It is time to just say, to be real. It's not time to negotiate. My kid will never, ever be telling me to shut up in public. Even in private, in school, they can't. Like, where would they start from? Right? That foundation that you get to lay. And so it is disappointing in so many different ways to be seeing that. And you start to just wonder like how that's going to translate for that kid in the future. Because if they do not have respect for their parents, you think they'll have respect for anybody else? How do you think they're going to behave in school, at school, in class? How do you think they're going to behave in public, right? It just gets to the place where I used to like, hear kids telling me like, you can't tell me what to do because you're not my dad. And I'm like, wow. I mean, you could start to see like those just value systems is just not there. We need to start parenting. You have to start stepping up and actually take your responsibility as a parent, because your inability to hold your kid accountable to parent your kid is going to have tremendous impact on society, all the people around them. And we are seeing it over and over again, right? We're seeing it over and over again. And like I said, I'm not going to say I'm going to just attribute this specifically to lack of parenting. I'm just saying that has an impact. Step up or don't have them. I mean, it's that simple. I'm not being judgmental. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just saying, if you're going to have them, make sure that your value systems are right and that you're preparing them, because it is the racist society is going to have to deal with that, which is lacking, right? And when they get to a certain way, it is so unbelievable, like really unbelievable. Had another conversation. Somebody else, again, all this, my friends is just saying, they'll be all right. They're good. If all they care about, if you give them that iPhone and they're on their social media with their friends and they're fine. And to me, I'm like, oh my goodness, is this has to do with how I was raised up? Where I was raised up? Am I going crazy or what? Because to me, it's just like, those are just so much like wrong values in there. Other than raising your own kids, you're saying if you buy them stuff and they're on social media, hang with their friends, it's like, then you start to see people like, too many sleepovers, like twice, 3 times a week. These are kids that are like, 10 years, 8 years. And I'm thinking, okay, and the next thing you know, a kid comes home and they're saying certain things that like, you're like, where did that come from? But my question is, are you even paying attention what they're saying? Like noticing like some of the changes in your kid. It's all good. I mean, my kids on social media, they use all that stuff. But you know what? I'm there. I'm really there, paying attention. What are they saying? What is the changes in behavior? Paying attention to that, because the minute I just see even a slight change, we have to have a conversation. Again, there is time for that. There's time for conversation, and there's time for outright dictatorship. What I call like progressive dictatorship way of doing things, where it's like, well, no, we're not negotiating that. You have to do it this way because I say so. As long as you live under these roofs, you have to do it this way. And when I say that, I've gotten people telling me sometimes, that's actually not a good way. It's not the right way. It has an impact on the kid's ability to be able to express themselves. No, it doesn't. Like I said, and I've said it again and again and again to people, like, stop trying to hide behind that, to actually not take your responsibility to educate and to raise your kids right. Lying to yourself about all of these other things that you think are gonna somehow have an impact on the kids' ability to think for themselves. No, they're not. My kids think for themselves, but they know. And I frame it differently, where I'm like, okay, the African parent is speaking right now. The African dad is speaking right now, and they know. As soon as I say the African dad is speaking right now, they know what that means. I mean, I frame it that way. It's like I'm being serious right now, and we're not negotiating that. And so I guess what I'm saying is, step up. Step up and parent, because if you don't parent, it's society that's gonna have to deal with that. And we've seen the impact of that. Again, not necessarily just attributing that specifically to lack of parenting, but we've seen the impact of that. Stop trying to hide behind all these other things and step up. Money isn't everything. I've seen people so busy chasing the dollar that even when they have opportunities to say, you know what, I can actually reduce and still be okay, they still don't do it, and somebody else is raising the kids. And that's where you end up situations where kids are just embarrassing their parents in public. Heck, even this morning, I just saw that, and I'm thinking, do I have to intervene? Like, no, I don't have to intervene. That's them. But then I also think if I don't intervene, that's them. But guess what? In the future, well, that's all of us are going to have to deal with that. And so you end up in a dilemma where you're like, you don't want to really, it's none of my business, but really it is my business, right? Because I don't know, that kid may end up in the same school as my own kid, And so parents, you need to parent. Stop this nonsense, be accountable for something. Step up and be parents and parent your kids, and don't try to kind of, run away from your obligations and hope that somehow things are going to be okay. They won't be okay. That's the reason why it's called parenting. That's why you're a parent, right? So step up, do what you got to do so that the rest of us don't have to deal with that in the future. The rest of our kids don't have to deal with in the future, because I want to see my kids grow up. I don't want to have my kids have to be scared that somebody is going to show up, another student to shoot. And I'm not saying that's why. I'm just saying all those factors do contribute to what a kid eventually becomes, right? But the most important thing you can do, for me at least, is the values you instill in the kid when they're still young. Because those are foundational values. Just like they say, those pre-K, kindergarten years are really important. It is true for school, for education. It is also true for parenting. Those years are very important. Those values are between, from birth all the way to 5. They are tremendously important. So if you can be there, be there. In fact, I would say, make sure you are there. Do everything possible to be there. And if you realize that you are not going to be able to be there, maybe you have to wait a little bit. I'm not trying to prescribe to you what you need to do. I'm just saying that whatever decisions you make, they also have an impact on the rest of us and the rest of society. And that's something that you need to think about.